Hey everyone, Amar here. In this video I'm going to be talking to you about how to bulletproof your mind against negativity. How to feel like you've got some control over negative thoughts, negative emotions and just your own actions and behaviour, right? We can actually bulletproof ourselves and strengthen ourselves so we're not overwhelmed by negativity. I've often talked about how on my own journey I really struggled with anxiety and negative thought patterns. So on this journey I learned a few things, and I've got these 7 steps or 7 habits that if you're able to implement them into your daily life, you are going to really strengthen your mind, right? And then you're going to feel like you're in much greater control of your life as well and everything that happens. Something I've been thinking a lot about is that our mind is just so freaking powerful. It's one of the most powerful things in the whole world, right? And we've all got our own mind, but no one actually tells us how to use it, right? We go to school, we get taught knowledge and how to figure things out, but we don't actually get told how to use our minds properly, right? No one tells us how to manage our thoughts. No one really tells us how to deal with our uncomfortable emotions. These are real life skill lessons that I don't know why we don't get taught them, right? It's probably the most important thing, how to control your thoughts, how to not be overwhelmed by your emotions, right? What could be more important than that? So I'm going to share with you what we're trying to do through these 7 steps. So I'm going to give you some basic kind of brain science so you have an idea what these 7 steps are going to help you to achieve. So I've just drawn a circle there. It's meant to be a brain. Imagine this is the front of the brain, right? This is the back of the brain, this is the front. So through all of these 7 practices, in order to strengthen your mind, we need to work on what's called the prefrontal cortex, right? It's the most kind of evolved part of our brain. It's the part of our brain that makes us uniquely human, right? Like lower animals just don't have a prefrontal cortex, or if they do, it's nowhere near the size of a human frontal cortex, right? So it's like this front part of our brain, right? Just generally speaking. And this part of our brain is really what gives us control and power over our experience, right? There's a lot of benefits of activating this part of the brain. They're called executive functions. So when this part of your brain is fully activated and working, you can plan, you can regulate your emotions better, you can control your thoughts, you can control your behavior better. You're just all around in better control of your experience, right? But like I said, we don't actually get taught how to strengthen this part of our brain, right? If you were lucky and you maybe had some good upbringing and you had some positive experiences that just naturally helped you strengthen this part of your brain, then you are probably going to do much better in life. But for those of us that didn't get the kind of right nurturing or the right upbringing, then this part of our mind is going to be weak. When this part of our mind is weak, then we are susceptible to a lot of negativity. And I say that because the other part of the brain, that is not the prefrontal cortex, most of that is like unconscious stuff, especially like the limbic system, which is back here somewhere. And the limbic system controls like the fight or flight mechanism. So if you've had a lot of trauma in your life, something I've recently heard is that you have more blood flow like in this part of your brain. But as you begin to bring your prefrontal cortex more online, you start to bring more blood flow and energy into the front part of your brain and less in this fight or flight fear-based system. So as you begin to draw energy out of that system and more into this more powerful part of your mind, you start to take some control back from your experience, right? And this is very true for people who have lived with trauma, because when you've had trauma, you can get stuck in these chronic trauma patterns, which is what I believe happened to me when I used to have negative thought patterns. I was just stuck in this fight or flight mode, right? My mind was like catastrophizing, always thinking of the worst case scenario. And I could try many things, like trying to get rid of my ego, but the pull of this part of my mind was just too strong. And that's kind of why I gave up on the non-dual path, which is something I'm talking a lot about lately. But it's when I came back to this and realized the power's there. Even on a spiritual level, if you want to access higher levels of spirituality, is done through this part of your mind, right? This is why animals and lower beings can't access higher levels of consciousness, because they don't have this well-developed prefrontal cortex. We do. So these 7 steps I'm going to share with you are going to strengthen this part of your mind. And like I've said, when you strengthen that part of your mind, you're going to have much more strength, much more control over negativity. So I've got 7 here. I'm going to take you through each one of them. So the first one is vision. Vision and purpose. So this is something I actually talked about in my last video. It's important for you to have a vision and a purpose for your life. I will link the last video on here where I'll go into it in a bit more depth. Without a vision or any idea of where you're going, it's like you're nowhere, right? And nowhere is a scary place to be, especially for an anxious person or someone stuck in some fight or flight response. If you can clearly define a vision or a direction to go in, automatically you are starting to create some type of order, right? You're not as lost. You kind of know where you're going, right? So I think this is one of the most important things you can do to strengthen this part of your mind, is create a vision for your life, have some direction. And even if you don't know like wholeheartedly where you want to go, don't just spend years trying to figure out your passion. I know this is something that people do, or finding your life purpose. Just pick something, right? Pick the nearest thing that you can find at this moment and just go in that direction, right? You can change your vision later. You need some direction. Without that, you are exposed to all these destructive elements of yourself, right? And that's not nice. So find a vision and a purpose, a direction for you to take your life into. So the second thing I've got on here is responsibility. I probably spelled that wrong, but being a responsible person, a good person, right? Doing the right thing when that time presents itself, right? So not doing wrong things, not treating people badly, not gossiping about other people, just doing the right thing is the best way I can put it, right? Just genuinely being a good person. This is easier said than done. I think most of us believe that we're good people. But when a situation presents itself where you really have to make a choice, what choice are you going to make? Let me give you an example here that I probably would have kind of made the wrong choice on in the past. Imagine you found like a lot of money, like 10 grand or something, right? Like a lot of money. The old me would have took that money, right? Let's say you found some money, no one's ever going to know it was you, right? The old me would have probably said, oh, I'll have that. But you know that you've done something wrong if you take that money, right? It doesn't matter if nobody else knows. You know, right? And you knowing you've done something wrong is going to come back to you, right? That's karma. Your brain knows you've done something that you shouldn't have done, right? Even if nobody else knows. So in that moment, you find the 10 grand, what are you going to do? Are you going to keep it? Or are you going to do the right thing and hand it back, or give it to someone who can maybe deal with it better than you, right? Maybe the police or whoever, right? What do you do in that moment, right? This is what I mean. This is what it means to be a good character and be a responsible person. In them difficult moments, making the right choices, right? Living with integrity. This is all just going to create a much stronger mind. It's really about self-control. That's one of the key elements about developing this part of your mind, is how in control of your experience are you? Are you able to kind of resist like temptation and the weaker parts of you that tell you to do things that you really shouldn't do? So it's about like discipline and making the right choice. And the next thing I've got is reading. You could say reading is a little bit easier than the first two, because reading we can all start doing this right away, but reading is something that's helped me strengthen my mind more than anything else, more than even meditation. It's helped me so much. I've also talked a lot about in my videos how I used to have like very bad concentration, ADHD. I just couldn't take anything in, right? But I wouldn't accept that. I just thought, no, it's got to get better than this. So I just forced myself to read. And really what I suggest is you read material that really stretches you. Read material that's a little bit outside of your comprehension, and you do struggle to understand it, right? When you read it once, read it again. Sometimes I read books back to back, books that I barely understand, and it's hard, right? But when you read it that second time, you are literally going to just improve your cognition. You will feel more intelligent, like you can interpret more complex ideas. So it's simple, but it's not easy, because when you're reading something that is like outside of your comprehension, you don't want to read it, right? You get bored. So this is the impulse you've got to fight. You've got to fight the boredom and you've got to stick with it. Like I said, reading is going to help you so much, especially if you read stuff that stretches you. Just don't read like junk, obviously. Read like science or deep philosophy or deep spirituality, stuff that just makes your mind kind of just expand, right? So it's got to be something that's outside of your comfort zone to get the most benefit. The next one I've got on here is working out and diet. I'll put on there. I mean, this doesn't really need much of an explanation. We all understand the benefits of keeping ourselves healthy and exercising every day. But it is also very important when it comes to strengthening our mind, especially when it comes to difficult, challenging workouts. This is what I suggest. Maybe you don't need to do this every time you work out, but at least say once a week or once a fortnight. You've got to do something that mentally like really stretches you and pushes you, where you really have to push yourself. That is going to not only increase all these positive endorphins that we get from exercise, but it increases blood flow, right? And like I said, when we start to get more blood flow in this part of the brain, the more this brain gets stronger. So if you're pushing yourself, you are actually using this prefrontal cortex of your mind. So you are increasing blood flow in that area by pushing yourself. Same with diet. I mean, it's again fighting them lower impulses, that part of you that's telling you to eat that cake or have that chocolate, but choosing not to do it, right? And choosing the healthy thing. This is again just going to strengthen your mind. And like I said, you strengthen your mind, you have more control over your experience. The fifth one I've got on here, another important one, is sacrifice. Oops, spelled that wrong. Sacrifice. And really the sacrifice I'm talking about here is to sacrifice pleasure, right? In order to change your life, you are going to have to sacrifice something. You just can't keep all these bad habits and then expect to get stronger or expect to change your life. You have to make sacrifices. Sacrifice is something that's been talked about for thousands of years. What are you going to sacrifice? The easiest thing to sacrifice is pleasure. I'm going to make a separate video about pleasure, but pleasurable things that don't really serve you, it's just a cheap feeling of something nice. That's the easiest place to sacrifice, right? Let me give you some clues here. Wasting time on social media, right? Stop spending hours on social media every day. I'm not saying don't use it, just be more restrictive with how much time you spend on there. That's a sacrifice. Netflix, you just spend hours watching TV and new shows and movies. Again, I like to watch a movie maybe once a week or once every couple of weeks, but that's about it. That's my limit. Sacrifice Netflix, wasting time on there. If you're a guy, maybe pornography, that's an awful thing to be consuming, because again, you're really not staying strong. You're giving power away to these lower desires, right? And if you do that, you're going to have no mental strength, right? And you are going to be exposed to a lot of negativity. Video games as well, I would suggest if you spend a lot of time spending them, you've got to give them up if you want to strengthen your mind. I would actually suggest that playing video games occasionally can actually strengthen your mind. But if you're spending hours every single day, then it's weakening your mind. And just anything that you get kind of cheap pleasure from. Alcohol's another one, right? Alcohol, drugs, these type of things. I'm not saying don't ever drink ever again, but if you're out drinking every single week, then you're just chasing pleasure and you're weakening other more important parts of your brain. So that takes me on to the sixth one. Again, another obvious one. Meditation. My spelling is awful today. Meditation. This is going to help you strengthen your mind more than anything else. You probably heard that monks and long-term meditators have the most powerful minds. They've done like MRI scans and they've seen like monks have the most well-developed prefrontal cortexes. And long-term meditators, that's probably why long-term meditators don't get caught up in a lot of negative thoughts and emotions, right? They've got better focus, they've got better concentration because they've developed this part of their brain. So meditation is going to help you so much. I would attach onto that positive visualization. For me at least, and a lot of people I know, it's easy to think negative, right? Negative thinking is like the path of least resistance. To actually make yourself think positive, that's more challenging, that's harder. That will activate this part of your brain, right? So sometimes in meditation, maybe you can do a positive visualization session. Think about things as positive as they can possibly be and really feel it, right? If you have a lot of resistance to that, you're going to have to face the resistance, and that's going to be uncomfortable, right? So meditation and even positive visualization to really work these muscles out. The final one I've got is just healing. Healing on a kind of emotional level, energetic level. Healing trauma is something I've talked a lot about in the past. But as you begin to heal yourself emotionally and energetically, a lot of these emotions will start to be integrated, right? You'll start to access them and use them consciously to help you move forward in life. When your prefrontal cortex is weak, you can't regulate these emotions, right? They just take over you. When you strengthen this part of your mind, it's like you've got some control. If you really want to check out the science on this, there's a part of your brain called the amygdala, which is kind of what generates negative emotions. A lot of negativity is activated in this center. But when you strengthen this part of your mind, you suppress activity in your amygdala. It's something I've used to talk about in a lot of my older videos. So by healing, you will suppress activity in the amygdala. You will be able to tap into negative emotions, the energy behind them, and actually use it to move your life forward, instead of being used by it, right? Instead of being stuck in suffering and negative thoughts and just triggered all the time, whatever it is. So these are the 7 steps I suggest that you implement into your life if you can, to the best of your ability, and you'll start to take your power back. Honestly, everything will just become a little bit easier. You still might feel them negative emotions and thoughts come up, but it's like you'll learn how to handle them and control them, because you've done the work to strengthen the most important part of the human brain, the prefrontal cortex, okay? So I would also suggest you kind of read around this topic and learn things from other people about this. I just think this is one of the most important things that you can do. It's going to make you more intelligent. It's going to give you like the power to really change your life, to focus, to concentrate, to achieve goals and move your life forward. Like, there's nothing to lose here, so do the work. But that is everything I have to talk about in a video. If you did enjoy it, if you could please go ahead, give a like, share, subscribe. Really helps me out. Check out my book, I'll put a link down below. But until next time, remember to keep living free and being free. Peace.